What's up guys, my name's Liam, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Ducky 1X. And even though this keyboard does have rapid trigger functionality, this is using their brand new inductive switches. So it is different from all of the other Hall effect rapid trigger keyboards that we've been seeing that have been coming with magnetic switches. So I was really excited to get my hands on this to test it out, see how these switches are going to compare to those, also how they're going to perform. So in this video I'm going to do the best that I can to help answer all those questions for you, and hopefully they'll be able to help you decide whether or not this could possibly be the perfect keyboard for you. So let's check it out. And before we get started today, I did want to let you know this was sent out to me. However, everything you're going to be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Included inside the box, it does come with this keycap puller, an additional set of switches here with some cool designs on them. The spacebar has some type of a cool dragon graphic on it. And then it also does include a USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable, but they also do include a USB Type-C to USB Type-A adapter. And then they also included this really cool Ducky brush, where it does have this little stand here. Once you do open it up, is where you can see the brush to help clean off your keyboard. So here's a look of the keyboard itself, and I just want to let you know right off the bat, this does come in two different variants. They do offer this in a full size and in a 60, and I'm sure that a majority of people, especially gamers that watch my channel, are probably going to prefer the 60 size. I have several 60s, 65s, 75s at this point, and not a whole lot of full sizes, so that is actually why I did opt for the full size here, because I just wanted to go for something a little bit different. But right off the bat, my first initial impressions, even when I got this out of the box to the time that I've been using it to date, is that this keyboard, just the layout and the general feeling of this, it does feel really great. And even though this keyboard is made out of ABS, the ABS housing on it, it actually does feel really solid and premium. And it does have really nice rounded edges. Up here at the top, they do have the storage for the USB Type-A 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Right over here, it does store in here nicely. I have not had any issues when I move this keyboard around with it falling out on me or anything like that. You do have your switch right here. If you were to switch it all the way over to this side, this enables the wireless receiver. Then in the middle is where you can use it in wired mode. Over here on the right hand side is where you can enable the Bluetooth connectivity to use this wirelessly with Bluetooth as well. And then on the left hand side is where they do have the USB-C connectivity. Over on the back, they do have these 4 rubberized feet up in each one of the corners, and then this also does have a flip out feet with 2 additional settings for height adjustment, and both of these do also have rubberized feet down here at the bottom. And then I'll just kind of show you what the front angle looks like. As you can see, as I've been using this, it does have this lip right here out in the bottom, and it does kind of just angle downwards with the slope from the bottom. So even though this is a full-size keyboard, obviously it's bigger, it's going to be a little bit on the heavier end, but with the battery that does come included inside of it and everything, throwing it here on my scale, looks like we got it sitting at approximately 1,690 grams. Here's a close-up of the double shot PBT keycaps that do come included with this keyboard, and they do feel really great. These are the Ducky inductive switches. They have a total travel of 3.5 millimeters, and the weight of them is rated at 40 GF. And when taking a look at the internal design of these, not really a whole lot further apart from magnetic switches. It still has this single rail design over here on these sides, and down at the middle of the switch housing, it still has this circle right here. Normally this is where the magnet enters inside of with a magnetic switch, but with these switches, instead of the magnet, they do have this rod. And when you have the switch put completely together, as you can see, there is a hole down here at the bottom, and every time you activate the switch, this rod does come out of the bottom of the casing itself. And as far as the feeling on these switches go, I would say that even though they are rated at 40 GF, they do feel just a little bit more on the heavier end to me. But when taking a look of these up closer to show you, there is a little bit of stem wobble here, as I'm going to go back and forth up here from top to bottom on the actual switch itself. And even when the keycaps are in, I'll go ahead and actuate this. As you can see, I do get just a little bit of stem wobble there. There are times, however, that I have noticed if I'm like pushing on these switches at an angle or something like that, I have been noticing just a little bit of additional friction there. And it's not on all of them, just on a few of them. But here's a look of underneath the space bar. It does come with some of these sound dampening pieces down here. I'm not sure if this is some type of a silicone, but I would say that these stabilizers in here, they have been feeling pretty good. They don't feel too rattly or anything for me, and they also did a good job at lubing these as well. And here's a close-up shot of what the PCB looks like underneath the switches themselves once that is removed, and it does have a north or top facing LED in it. All right, so taking a look at the internals here on this keyboard, what you have to do to take this apart is just remove the screws that are on the back of the keyboard itself. Once I did take those out, I did actually need to use a pry tool to separate the top piece from the bottom piece. There were also some additional clips that were in there. But once you do remove this top piece right here, this is just made out of an ABS. On top of the switch plate itself, they actually do have a additional piece right here. I do believe they refer to this as a PET sound dampening piece right here. And then underneath that, you do have the switch plate. The switch plate is labeled as a metal. I'm not sure exactly what type of a metal it is, but as you can see down here that it does have this gasket mount design, and it does have these pieces on the switch plate that sticks out. And then it has these little silicone pieces. And as I was using this, you can notice just a little bit of flex there as you were pressing on this. It is a little bit on the firmer end, but if you do give it some pretty nice amount of pressure there, like I said, you can notice a bit of flexing going on there. But in between the switch plate and the PCB, they also do have a piece of sound dampening foam, right down here in the middle of this. And then right underneath that, here's a close-up shot of what the PCB itself looks like. And then underneath the PCB itself, they do have an additional piece of this sound dampening foam. And then right underneath that, they also do have a really thick piece of silicone here. And underneath the silicone here is a look of what the battery looks like. And then this does just sit right underneath in this ABS bottom casing. So now let's go ahead and we will drop a really quick sound test. All of the settings for this keyboard can be accessible through this web-based driver. Once you come in here and connect it through the browser of your choice, up here on the first tab is where you have the key settings. And this is very clearly where you can just make adjustments to the keys on your keyboard. Next up, you do have your lighting options as well. They do have a bunch of different various presets here. And here are just some of the parameters that you can control with the lighting. The actuation is one of the most important parts to getting your keyboard set up. And once you come in here, it does allow you to individually set up each key, or you can come down here and hit this select all option if you wanted to adjust all of them. Now, this does have an actuation setting. The lowest setting you can go is at a 0.1 millimeter. As I've been testing out this keyboard for quite some time now, for whatever reason, when I set this to a 0.1 or a 0.2, it will just randomly press keys sometimes on my, whether I'm on my browser in game or something like it, that just randomly hit random keys. So I have found that setting this to a 0.3 millimeter has got rid of the issue. So hopefully that is something that they will be able to fix in a later firmware update. And over here, you do have the sensitivity options for the rapid trigger if you do choose to turn it on. And the one thing I do wish that this keyboard it did offer is right now they just have a low, medium, and high sensitivity. I don't know the exact corresponding values to this, but I have been using this at the high setting and it has felt very responsive. And then next up over here, you do have your multi-point trigger tab. This is where you can set up multiple functions. So for example, if you just press down your switch just a little bit and started walking and you wanted to push it down further, you can set up so that you'd start running. And as you're setting up these various types of functions, as you can see, you can come over here and adjust the sensitivity for the press and the release. And then finally over here on the final tab is where you have your macro options setting. When it comes to the performance of the Ducky 1X, I did test this out on my solenoid rig with my high-speed camera, and I always put out a disclaimer with this testing that there are a bunch of different varying factors that can alter the results of these tests. And another thing that I did want to bring up is almost always the smaller form factor is going to have a little bit lower latency than the larger ones. It has even been known that the Wooting 60HE compared to like the Wooting 2HE, for example, that the 60HE was always performing faster. So not really a fair comparison to test the 60HE to this larger form style of a keyboard. But even with that being said, the performance on this still has come out to be really good. But I did run this test on both the press and the release 10 times for the Wooting 60HE and for the Ducky 1X. And the performance of this keyboard has been coming out really impressive. On the press, they were really evenly matched for the performance, where the Wooting won 5 out of the 10 times, and this one also won 5 out of 10 times. However, the Wooting actually did win 7 out of the 10 times on the release for this testing. So even though the Wooting 60HE is coming out a little bit ahead on the release, not really much of a difference with the performance here that I was able to tell between both of them in a real world experience. All right guys, so that about wraps things up on the Ducky 1X. And I got to give it to Ducky here for bringing us a new style of a keyboard. Overall, the typing experience on this keyboard for me has just felt a little bit better. So I've kind of preferred myself working on this keyboard as opposed to some of the other magnetic switch keyboards that are out there on the market with those lighter type switches. And on top of that, this still does game pretty good. So really it just comes down to what your personal preference would be. And also if you're somebody who finds an advantage over using a wireless keyboard compared to being it wired, I do feel like that there is a lot of great options that this keyboard does bring that makes it a really good option. I do feel like though, if you are a gaming enthusiast out there and you really only use your keyboard just for gaming and you're looking for the lightest switches out there with the fastest response times, then perhaps one of the other magnetic switch options might be a little bit more suitable for you. And even though, like I did mention earlier, there are some times on some of these switches where you do notice a little bit of additional friction there as you're actually actuating the switch, it still has been working great for me in game, and I haven't come across any type of issues with it yet impacting my gameplay. So though I don't necessarily feel like these inductive switches are just going to completely destroy magnetic switches, they are a good option to throw out there on the market, especially if you're somebody that's looking for a well-rounded type of an option. And I do really feel like Ducky has done a really good job. So if you have any additional questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.